In the year 1846, a young Abraham Lincoln embarked on a journey that would shape not only his own destiny, but also that of the United States. During this period, Lincoln, then a self-taught lawyer, was elected to the United States House of Representatives from Illinois. It was a time of great political upheaval, with tensions over slavery beginning to fracture the nation. Throughout the era, Lincoln's appearance and demeanor were subjects of fascination. His gaunt features, deep-set eyes, and the famous stovepipe hat became emblematic of his identity. As events unfolded, Lincoln's image was captured by the nascent art of photography, which was still in its infancy. In 1846–1847, Nicholas H. Shepard, a daguerreotypist from Springfield, Illinois, captured what is believed to be the earliest confirmed photographic image of Abraham Lincoln. This daguerreotype, a delicate and detailed early photographic process, was taken shortly after Lincoln's election to Congress. Shepard's studio was conveniently located above J. Brookie's drugstore, and Lincoln, always eager to learn, even studied law at the same office as Shepard, which was also shared with his law partner, William Herndon. The photograph reveals a young Lincoln, not yet the national figure he would become. His face, less lined with the cares of state, still bore the hallmarks of his character: determination, intelligence, and a certain humility that would remain with him throughout his life. October 27, 1854, marked another milestone in the visual chronicle of Lincoln's life. Johann Carl Friedrich Polycarpus von Schneidew, a Swedish-born photographer, captured the second earliest known photograph of Lincoln. This image was taken during a chance meeting in Chicago, where Lincoln dined with Isaac N. Arnold and George Schneider, the editor of the influential anti-slavery German newspaper, the Illinois Staatszeitung. After dinner, the group stopped at an itinerant photograph gallery, and Lincoln, perhaps recognizing the importance of his image in the public eye, had this photograph taken for Schneider. Here, Lincoln's face is more defined, his features etched by the years of legal practice and political engagement. His eyes, often described as having a penetrating quality, seem to look beyond the camera, contemplating perhaps the future of the nation he would soon lead. By February 28, 1857, Alexander Hessler, a renowned photographer, took a portrait of Lincoln that has become one of the most iconic images of him. Lincoln, aware of his unique appearance, remarked on his homeliness when he arranged for this sitting, intended for distribution among members of the bar. Joseph Medill accompanied him, and there is a charming anecdote of the photographer attempting to smooth Lincoln's hair, only for Lincoln to run his fingers through it, restoring his natural, somewhat unruly look. This photograph, taken just before Lincoln's Senate nomination, captures him in a contemplative pose. The original negative was tragically lost in the Great Chicago Fire, making this image all the more precious. In 1858, Roderick M. Cole added to the visual legacy of Lincoln with another portrait. This image, taken during the pivotal year of the Lincoln-Douglas debates, shows Lincoln in his full stature, his height and presence almost overwhelming the frame. The debates, a series of public discussions on slavery and state sovereignty, brought Lincoln's oratory skills to the forefront, and this photograph reflects the gravitas of a man stepping onto the national stage. Throughout these years, as Lincoln's political career ascended, so did his presence in the public eye through these photographic portraits. Each image not only documents a moment in time, but also tells a story of a man whose leadership would guide the nation through its greatest crisis. John George Nicolay, Lincoln's private secretary, once observed, "There are many pictures of Lincoln. There is no portrait of him," suggesting that while photographs could capture his likeness, the essence of Lincoln was something more profound, something that transcended mere physical appearance. As we delve deeper into the life of Abraham Lincoln, captured through the lens of photography, we arrive at the year 1858. This was a pivotal year in Lincoln's political career, marked by the famous Lincoln-Douglas debates. By this time, photography had become more accessible, and Roderick M. Cole, a photographer from Chicago, seized the opportunity to immortalize Lincoln's image. Cole's portrait of Lincoln is one of the most commanding, capturing the tall, angular figure of the future president in a manner that reflects his growing stature in national politics. The photograph was taken during a time when Lincoln was challenging Stephen A. Douglas for the Senate seat from Illinois. These debates, which took place across 7 towns in Illinois, were not just about political discourse, but also about the visual presentation of the candidates. Lincoln's physical presence, his height, and his unique facial features were as much a part of his campaign as his words. Cole's portrait shows Lincoln in a more formal setting, his dark suit contrasting with his light complexion. His eyes, often described as having a piercing quality, seem to look directly at the viewer, conveying a sense of determination and the weight of the issues at hand. The photograph captures Lincoln in a moment of transition, from a respected lawyer and politician to a national figure whose image would soon be synonymous with the Union cause. In 1860, as Lincoln's presidential campaign gained momentum, so did the interest in his photographic likeness. Matthew Brady, one of the era's most famous photographers, took several portraits of Lincoln. One of these, taken in February 1860, became particularly iconic. Brady's studio was renowned for its ability to capture the essence of its subjects, and Lincoln was no exception. The photograph shows Lincoln standing, his right hand on a stack of books, symbolizing his self-education and his respect for knowledge. His left hand rests on the back of a chair, an informal pose that contrasts with his formal attire, suggesting both authority and approachability. This image was widely distributed during the election campaign, becoming one of the first instances of mass media in politics. Lincoln's face here is more relaxed than in earlier photographs, perhaps reflecting a newfound confidence or the pressures of the campaign. His hair, often a subject of discussion, is neatly combed, but the characteristic cowlick at the front remains, adding a touch of authenticity to his image. As the Civil War loomed and Lincoln ascended to the presidency, photography continued to play a significant role in documenting his journey. In 1861, shortly after his inauguration, Alexander Gardner, who had worked with Brady, captured Lincoln in the White House. Gardner's portrait is notable for its intimacy, showing Lincoln seated with his right hand tucked into his vest, a pose he often adopted. His expression is one of contemplation, perhaps pondering the immense challenges ahead. The photograph was taken in the midst of the secession crisis, with Southern states declaring their intention to leave the Union. Lincoln's face here carries the lines of worry, his eyes reflecting the gravity of the situation. Gardner, an advocate for the Union, likely saw in Lincoln not just a leader, but a symbol of the nation's struggle to remain whole. Throughout his presidency, Lincoln's relationship with photography was unique. He understood its power to humanize him, to bridge the gap between the office of the presidency and the people. Each photograph served as a visual narrative, documenting not only his physical appearance, but also the changing expressions that mirrored the nation's journey through its darkest hour. John George Nicolay's observation, "There are many pictures of Lincoln, there is no portrait of him," reminds us that while these images capture Lincoln's exterior, his true essence, his compassion, his resolve, his sense of humor, and his deep-seated belief in the Union was something that transcended the mere photographic image. It was this inner Lincoln that guided the nation through war, towards a vision of unity and freedom for all. As we continue to explore the photographic legacy of Abraham Lincoln, we come to the year 1863, a year marked by significant events in Lincoln's presidency. The Civil War was at its peak, and Lincoln's leadership was tested as never before. On November 19, 1863, Lincoln delivered the Gettysburg Address at the dedication of the Soldiers' National Cemetery in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. This speech, though brief, became one of the most famous in American history, encapsulating the essence of the Union's struggle and the sacrifices made by its soldiers. Photographs from this period capture Lincoln in a different light, not as the politician or the lawyer, but as the war-weary leader. One such photograph, taken by Alexander Gardner, shows Lincoln at the Gettysburg dedication. Although the actual delivery of the address was not captured on camera, Gardner's portrait of Lincoln, taken before or after the event, reflects the solemnity of the occasion. Lincoln's face in this photograph bears the weight of the war, his expression somber, his eyes conveying the depth of his thoughts on the sacrifices made and the future of the nation. The image was taken outdoors, with Lincoln standing by a tree, his hands clasped in front of him, perhaps in contemplation or prayer. His attire, simple yet dignified, contrasts with the backdrop of the battlefield, symbolizing the duality of his role both as a mourner and as the commander-in-chief. This photograph, like others from this period, was not just a documentation of Lincoln's physical presence, but also an artifact of the time, capturing the spirit of a nation in crisis. Moving forward to 1864, with the war still raging, Lincoln's image became even more public as he sought re-election. A famous photograph from this year was taken by William Marsh, which has come to be known as the cracked plate portrait. This image, perhaps the most personal of Lincoln's photographs, shows him in an intimate pose, his head tilted slightly to the left, his eyes looking off to the side as if lost in thought. The photograph has a unique quality due to the accidental crack in the glass negative, which runs diagonally across Lincoln's face, adding a poignant touch to the image. The cracked plate portrait, while not initially intended for public consumption, became emblematic of the fractured nation Lincoln was trying to hold together. The crack, unintended yet symbolically powerful, has been interpreted as representing the divides within the country, the trials of the war, and perhaps even the fragility of Lincoln's own health and life. Lincoln's expression here is one of fatigue but also of resolve, reflecting his inner strength in the face of adversity. This photograph, taken during a time when the Union's victory was not yet assured, captures a moment of introspection for a leader who bore the immense responsibility of a nation at war with itself. As the war drew to a close in 1865, Lincoln's image softened. One of the last photographs taken of him, just days before his assassination, was by Henry F. Warren. This portrait, taken on March 6, 1865, shows Lincoln with a more relaxed expression, his face bearing the lines of age but also a sense of hope and relief as the end of the conflict approached. Lincoln's eyes in this photograph seem to carry the weight of the past 4 years, yet there is a glimmer of peace, a reflection of the nation's desire to heal. His posture is informal, his hands resting on his lap, suggesting a moment of repose after years of relentless work. This photograph, taken in the White House, captures Lincoln not as the wartime president, but as a man who has seen the end of a terrible conflict. It is a poignant reminder of the human aspect of leadership, the toll it takes, and the hope that can emerge from despair. Throughout his presidency, Lincoln's photographs were not just images but narratives. They told the story of a leader whose physical appearance changed with the burdens he carried, whose eyes reflected the soul of a nation, and whose legacy would be remembered through these visual documents. John George Nicolay's observation, "There are many pictures of Lincoln. There is no portrait of him," underscores the complexity of capturing the essence of a man whose leadership transcended the visual, whose impact on America was profound and enduring.